When you thought things could not get any worse, Napheesa Collier officially canceled the meeting with WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert.
This just became chaotic. Napheesa Collier has now officially called off her meeting with WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, a move that could jeopardize the entire 2026 season. Fans are calling this the final straw. The league's top star essentially told the commissioner, no thanks. A question for you, can the WNBA withstand this turmoil?
Cathy Engelbert's meeting with Napheesa Collier has been canceled. Fee is pissed, livid about the rhetoric that Cathy Engelbert spewed on that podium before Game 1 of the WNBA Finals. It is looking like.
Let's break down this complete disaster, as this might be the most turbulent week the WNBA has faced in recent memory. Napheesa Collier, the MVP runner-up, Olympian, and union leader, has withdrawn from her scheduled meeting with Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. This meeting was intended to be the moment the two sides finally de-escalated tensions after weeks of conflict. Instead, it's completely off the table. The reason is quite straightforward. Cathy Engelbert took the stage before Game 1 of the WNBA Finals and on live TV essentially accused Collier of dishonesty.
That is negligence. At Unrivaled this past February, I sat across from Cathy and asked how she planned to address the officiating issues in our league.
Engelbert chose to address what she termed false reports. She stated she never made the remarks Collier attributed to her, particularly the now infamous line about Caitlin Clark needing to be grateful she earns money off the court. And that was the breaking point. For Napheesa Collier, this wasn't merely a denial, it was a direct public affront. You must recall what Collier actually stated a week prior. She stood up and voiced concerns about the league's poor management, the deteriorating quality of officiating, and the pervasive disrespect shown to players. She wasn't simply venting, she was presenting facts that every player had been complaining about for months.
Take a moment to address some important conversations happening across the WNBA, including remarks made earlier this week by Napheesa Collier. First, let me repeat this. You saw it in my statement, but I have the utmost respect for Napheesa and for every single player in our league. They are at the center of everything we do. I was disheartened to hear that some players feel the league and me personally do not care about them or listen to them. And if the players in the W don't feel appreciated and valued by the league, then we have to do better and I have to do better. We know how great these players are on and off the court, how much they mean to our league, our fans, and our communities. If they don't feel that, I will do everything I can to change that. No one should ever doubt how deeply I care about this league, this game, and every single player who makes the WNBA what it is.
So when Engelbert came back and denied everything, on camera, in front of reporters, it was like she looked the players right in the eye and said, "You're making this up. That's not how you fix a league that's already barely holding itself together." And this wasn't just Collier getting offended. Every player in the league backed her. Sophie Cunningham spoke out. Breanna Stewart liked posts supporting her. Even Caitlin Clark, who usually avoids drama like the plague, said, "Fee made a lot of valid points." So when Engelbert denied it all, that wasn't just a PR move. That was career suicide. Now Collier's done talking.
She then recounted her private talk with Engelbert, where the commissioner supposedly said only losers complain about refs and that Caitlin Clark should be thankful for the platform the WNBA provides her. So, when Engelbert later denied everything on camera before reporters, it was as if she looked the players directly in the eye and said, "You're inventing this. That is not how you mend a league that is already struggling to stay afloat." And this wasn't just Collier feeling insulted. Every player in the league supported her. Sophie Cunningham spoke out, Breanna Stewart liked posts in her favor, and even Caitlin Clark, who typically avoids drama, mentioned that Fee had made many valid points. So, Engelbert's denial wasn't just a public relations move, it was a career-ending mistake. Now Collier is finished with discussions. She has formally canceled their meeting that was planned for this week. Sources revealed to ESPN the relationship between them is damaged beyond repair. That phrase alone should send chills through the league, because Collier is not just some random player. She is the vice president of the WNBA Players Association. This means if she is done with Engelbert, the entire union is effectively done with Engelbert. No discussions mean no CBA agreement, and no CBA agreement means no season. That is our current situation, and it's truly stunning how quickly this all escalated. Just 2 weeks ago, the league was celebrating its best ever TV ratings. Caitlin Clark was seen as the face of the future. Sponsors were getting in line. Everyone was declaring this as the WNBA's big moment. Now see where we are. One poor press conference, one furious player, and the entire structure might just collapse before the 2026 season even begins. It's almost impressive how fast the WNBA manages to undermine itself. But let's be honest, Collier had every right to be furious. She risked her career by speaking out against the commissioner, something players don't often do. Instead of respecting that or finding a middle ground, Engelbert went into full defensive mode, like a corporate CEO protecting her stock value. Lots of inaccuracies out there. She said, social media reporting, right? Because every player complaint is just social media noise. That's the same attitude she had last year when players complained about charter flights and schedule fatigue. She gave the same response. We're looking into it. Translation, we don't care right now. That is the heart of the issue. Engelbert manages the WNBA like a business, not a sports league. Every answer sounds like it came from a PowerPoint slide. Meanwhile, players are being fined for criticizing the refs and are pleading for basic respect. So when Napheesa spoke up, she was essentially saying what everyone else was too afraid to voice. And that is why canceling this meeting is so significant. It shows she is done with the PR game. She's signaling to the league, we're not handling this behind closed doors anymore. You lied about me in public, so we're finished. That isn't just frustration, that's a strategic move. Because consider what comes next. The collective bargaining agreement is nearing its expiration. That's the contract that determines salaries, benefits, and the revenue share. The deadline is the end of this month. The players and owners should be negotiating right now, but their lead negotiator just canceled her meeting with the commissioner. That's like calling off peace talks moments before a war. And it gets even worse. If the players don't sign a new deal by the deadline, the league enters a lockout. That means no one gets paid, no one can use team facilities, sponsors withdraw, and TV contracts are paused. Essentially everything halts. And with the current animosity between the players and Engelbert, a lockout is looking increasingly likely. ESPN quoted a source saying players don't feel they can negotiate with her. So what's next? Well, some suggest Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, may have to intervene and dismiss Cathy Engelbert just to salvage the league. That is how dire the situation has become. Because if Collier refuses to meet with her, no other player will. And if no player will, there's no CBA. And without a CBA, there is no 2026 season. It is that straightforward. Let's just call this what it is, a complete meltdown at the highest level. And it's not as if this appeared out of thin air. Players have been discontent for months. We've seen Sophie Cunningham's rant about leadership. We've seen Alyssa Thomas get ejected for questioning officials. And we've even seen Elena Della Dunn retire without as much as a thank you from the league office. How does that occur? There are only 4 T4 players in the WNBA, and you can't even send an email to a future Hall of Famer. Come on. The players see that. They notice the minimal effort from leadership. And then they are told to be grateful. That is precisely why they are upset. And Napheesa Collier was the one who finally had the bravery to say it aloud. But now, because she did, we might not have a league at all next year. Think about how absurd that is. A league that was just beginning to experience growth might completely collapse because the commissioner couldn't take criticism and decided to correct the record on live television. You can't invent this kind of story. And let's not overlook the timing. This all transpired right before the finals, the season's biggest stage. Instead of discussing the Aces and the Mercury, every headline was about Cathy Engelbert versus Napheesa Collier. That is what is called a PR disaster. And guess who gets the blame? The player. You just know the league office will pivot and claim this is why they can't raise salaries. Look at the negative press. It is always the same pattern. But the reality is this is not a player issue. This is a leadership issue. The commissioner's role is to safeguard the league and its players. If you cannot do both, you shouldn't hold the position. And right now, Cathy Engelbert is failing at both. Now, let's delve into the long-term implications, because this is more than just drama. This could determine if the WNBA even exists in 2026. Currently, both sides are in a silent deadlock. The players are incensed, the commissioner appears completely adrift, and the owners are feigning normalcy while hoping the NBA intervenes to resolve the chaos. And who is caught in the middle of all this? Caitlin Clark, because every decision, every dispute, and every headline seems to circle back to her name. It's as if she's the one player in the league that everyone, fans, owners, and players, can agree generates revenue, and that is the crux of the problem. The WNBA finally found a superstar who fills arenas, and instead of building around her, the league managed to make her a source of chaos. Just think about it. Cathy Engelbert should have been publicly thanking her, creating campaigns around her, perhaps even negotiating a TV deal focused on her games. But instead, she made her the focal point of a political battle. Now Caitlin's name is being dragged into every CBA discussion, and she hasn't uttered a single negative word about anyone. That is how messy this situation has become. And then there's Unrivaled, the off-season league founded by Napheesa Collier and Brianna Stewart. This could become the WNBA's biggest challenge, because if a lockout happens and the WNBA shuts down for a season, where will all the top players go? Straight to Unrivaled. It's already positioned to compete. They have sponsors, gyms, and enough prominent names to offer a solid product. So, if the WNBA falters, even for a year, players won't be idle. They will be playing in a league owned by their peers. That is what makes this entire situation even more complex. Because from an outside perspective, it almost seems like Collier stands to gain either way. If the WNBA resolves its issues, she wins as a player. If it implodes, her new league emerges as the alternative. You could call that savvy business or a conflict of interest. Either way, Cathy Engelbert appears to be losing her grip on the situation. And let's be truthful, she is not suited for this type of turmoil. She came from Deloitte, a corporate environment where people use terms like synergy and pipeline optimization. That's fine for managing spreadsheets, but this is professional sport. You can't talk your way out of a public feud with players who have millions of fans following their every move. At this stage, it feels like the players don't want reform. They want a replacement. They want Engelbert removed. Fans online are already demanding Adam Silver fire her before the new year. And honestly, that might be the only path to a resolution. Because right now, every single issue, from ticket sales to officiating to player safety, traces back to leadership. You can't expect trust from players when your commissioner's first reaction to criticism is to go on stage and declare that they are wrong. So yes, Napheesa canceling that meeting was a monumental move. It wasn't just personal, it was a statement. It declared, we're done with being polite. And honestly, who can fault her? The players have tried every avenue. They've held meetings, spoken out publicly, and even risked fines. The league's reaction: denial and silence. The WNBA loves to say, we're growing the game. But how are you growing anything when your players feel utterly disregarded? Let's be frank, the sole reason the league hasn't completely imploded yet is because the players continue to save it. The very athletes they underpay are the ones sustaining it. Caitlin Clark draws the crowds. Angel Reese generates headlines. Aja Wilson secures championships. Meanwhile, the league's leadership brings in negative press. If this continues, 2026 won't just be canceled. It might be the year the players seize full control. And that is the part that should truly frighten the WNBA office. Because if the players realize they don't need the league to thrive, it's all over. They will take their fan bases, their sponsors, and their star power and construct something new. And the sad part is, the fans lose too. Because for once, people were actually watching women's basketball again. The Caitlin Clark effect was tangible. The Fever were selling out arenas, and kids were buying jerseys. For the first time in years, it felt like there was real momentum building, and now it's all slipping away, because one executive couldn't accept being challenged. If the league genuinely cared about growth, they would dismiss Engelbert tomorrow and begin mending relationships with the players. Because as it stands, there is no coming back from this, unless someone intervenes quickly. The CBA deadline is approaching, the union is not communicating, and the fans are watching the whole thing unravel in real time. So here we are, one canceled meeting away from a canceled season. Do you think Napheesa made the right choice by walking away, or should she have taken the meeting with Cathy? Anyway, share your thoughts below. I'm eager to hear what you think, and if you are new here,